Breaking news. Middle East conflict chokes global oil supply. Reporters are rushing to scenes of burning oil fields and warplanes streaking overhead. The world is watching, holding its breath. In just a matter of hours, oil prices shoot up, markets tumble. Panic spreads, not just in the region but honestly, all around the globe. Brokers on Wall Street and in Hong Kong are shouting over one another. Every barrel of oil suddenly costs far more than it did yesterday. Over in Europe, gas stations are starting to limit sales. In Africa, buses grind to a halt. But across the vast Pacific, a distant nation feels the shock most sharply: the Philippines. It all happens fast. News anchors cut to Manila, where politicians scramble for emergency meetings. The president appears on national television, voice tight with concern, saying, "We urge calm. We are working to secure our fuel supplies." But the tremor in his words is unmistakable. People sense the danger. They remember past crises and long lines. They know just how vulnerable their country is. And now, the world's oil heart is bleeding, and the Philippines is at risk of running dry. As the news spreads, chaos erupts on Philippine streets. At dawn, cars snake around gas stations, their owners anxious and angry. Some stations run out of fuel before midday. Tempers flare. Motorists argue, desperate to fill their tanks before prices rise even higher. Jeepneys, the colorful kings of Philippine roads, sputter and stop. Without affordable diesel, drivers park their vehicles, leaving crowds stranded on streets and sidewalks. Commuters push into packed trains and buses. Some walk miles under the scorching sun, clutching bags and children. Supermarkets raise prices on food, blaming higher transport costs. Power companies warn of rolling blackouts as oil-fired plants struggle to cope. Factories slow down, and the threat of lost jobs hangs in the air. On social media, anger boils over. Hashtags trend. Hashtag oil crisis PH. Hashtag no more imports. People share stories, missed hospital appointments, canceled deliveries, children late for school. Everyone feels the pinch, from city dwellers to island fishermen. The Philippines relies almost entirely on imported oil. According to the Department of Energy, more than 99% of its crude oil comes from abroad. In 2023, the country imported over 140 million barrels of crude and petroleum products. Local production is tiny, less than 2% of total demand. Most of this oil comes from the Middle East, countries like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. When trouble hits this region, the Philippines feels it instantly. The nation has little cushion or backup. This dependence is risky. Ships bring oil across thousands of kilometers of open sea. Any disruption, war, piracy, or storm can cut off supplies. The country is always one accident away from an energy emergency. And it's not just about fuel for cars. Imported oil powers electricity plants, runs factories, and supports every part of daily life. A single shock can ripple through the whole economy, threatening millions of Filipinos. For most Filipinos, the effects are personal. Each time world oil prices climb, so do taxi fares, bus tickets, and food costs. Even goods made locally grow more expensive, as transport and production depend on imported energy. Families struggle to stretch their pesos. Some skip meals or cut back on electricity. Pagtaas ng langis, taas lahat. People say, when oil prices rise, everything rises. Fishermen pay more for boat fuel, but their catch sells for less. Small businesses, already fragile, close their doors. Power outages become a fact of life. Companies using oil-fired generators pass costs to consumers. Students study by candlelight, and hospitals ration electricity. The health and future of the nation are at stake. In rural areas, farmers face higher costs for fertilizers and machines. Their harvests shrink, and poverty deepens. The whole country feels the pain, from Manila's skyscrapers to Mindanao's remote villages. The Philippines spends billions of dollars each year on imported oil. In 2023, the bill topped $12 billion, money that honestly could have built schools, hospitals, or roads. Every dollar spent on foreign oil leaves the country poorer. This spending drains the nation's foreign reserves. When oil prices spike, the peso weakens. Inflation rises, eroding the value of wages and savings. The entire economy becomes more fragile, at the mercy of events far beyond its control. Foreign debt grows as the government borrows to pay for energy. Investors worry, and credit ratings slip. National security is at risk too. If an enemy blocks supplies or prices soar, the country could grind to a halt. Energy experts warn. As long as the Philippines depends on imports, it will always be vulnerable. The nation needs a new way forward, one that puts power back in Filipino hands. Deep under the waves of the West Philippine Sea lies hope. Scientists and energy companies have found signs of vast oil and natural gas reserves. Some studies estimate up to 5.4 billion barrels of oil and 55 trillion cubic feet of natural gas in the seabed. This treasure, if unlocked, could supply the country for decades. It could turn the Philippines from an importer to an exporter of energy. The promise is enormous, enough to power cities, fuel industries, and lift millions out of poverty. Exploration began years ago with test drills in areas like the Reed Bank. Early results are exciting. Experts say the reserves could rival those of famous oil nations. The government calls it a game changer, the key to energy independence. But this treasure is not easy to reach. Political storms and powerful rivals circle the waters, making the dream both real and risky. So, just how big is the promise of the West Philippine Sea? Well, for a bit of context, let's compare it to some of the world's most famous oil fields. Saudi Arabia's Ghawar field holds over 70 billion barrels, while Alaska's Prudhoe Bay has about 13 billion barrels discovered. Now, while the West Philippine Sea's 5.4 billion barrels might seem smaller, for the Philippines, it's honestly life-changing. And, the natural gas reserves are even more impressive. They could actually rival the North Field of Qatar, which is one of the world's giants. This isn't just enough to keep the lights on, it's enough to fuel new industries and really power the nation's future. Just look at countries like Norway and Malaysia. They built their wealth on similar discoveries. With the right management, the Philippines could totally follow their path. Local fuel could mean lower prices, more jobs, and less pollution from dirty imported fuels. When you look at this comparison, it really shows the scale of what lies beneath Philippine waters. It's not just some distant dream. It's a real prize, if the nation can claim it. But, the West Philippine Sea is actually a battleground. China claims almost the entire area, building islands and sending ships to enforce its will. The Philippines, backed by international law, stands its ground. But, honestly, the fight is far from over. In 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague ruled in favor of the Philippines. The tribunal said China's vast claims have no legal basis. Yet, out on the water, Chinese vessels still block Filipino fishermen and energy explorers. This ongoing standoff makes development risky. Oil companies are, understandably, afraid to invest in disputed waters. Filipino crews face harassment and real danger. The government has to balance diplomacy, security, and national pride. So, the path to energy riches isn't just about drills and pipes, it's a test of courage, unity, and smart negotiation. And, the world is watching to see if the Philippines can turn law into lasting power. So, what would energy independence mean for the Philippines? Well, imagine stable fuel prices, new jobs, and booming industries. Filipino engineers and workers could really lead the charge. Taxes from oil and gas would help fund schools, hospitals, and roads. The nation wouldn't have to fear every Middle East crisis or foreign blockade anymore. It could actually shape its own destiny. Security would grow, and poverty could shrink. Clean, local gas could power homes and cars, cutting both pollution and costs. But let's be honest, the road is tough. The country needs investment, technology, and strong leadership. Security in the West Philippine Sea has to be guaranteed. Laws must be enforced, and partners chosen wisely. Still, there is hope. In recent years, Filipino companies have struck new gas in Palawan and invested in renewable energy. The spirit of innovation is alive and well. If the nation stands together, it can make the West Philippine Sea a symbol of freedom and progress. The Philippines is, right now, at a crossroads. One path leads to continued dependence, rising costs, lost jobs, and endless fear of the next crisis. The other leads to energy independence, national pride, and prosperity for every Filipino. Unlocking the treasures of the West Philippine Sea isn't easy. It demands courage, unity, and vision. But the rewards, honestly, are immense. A nation that controls its own energy controls its own future. Let this be the moment when the Philippines chooses hope over helplessness. When leaders act boldly, and citizens demand a better tomorrow. The oil and gas beneath the sea are more than just resources. They are a promise. A promise that, if kept, will light the way to a new era for the Filipino people.